We're now in the Coda. If this is your first time listening to Connection Request, the Coda is where, I just like to share a couple thoughts about what's on my mind. And May, for those of you who don't know, is Mental Health Awareness Month. And because Risa was so open in sharing her story around mental health, I thought I would share mine as well. I was actually looking at the National Alliance for Mental Illness, website, NAMI.org. And I didn't realize this, but National Mental Health Awareness Month, at least in the US, has been observed since 1949. And that just really blew my mind. I for it to have been observed that long, it still feels like, at least in this country, we have such a long way to go of normalizing talking about mental health, educating especially young people about mental health, and just providing greater access, education, and awareness. But I think we've made a lot of progress, right? I think the fact that you see people like Risa and others out there sharing their stories, I think means we've come a long way. At least in my own sort of experiences in the workplace, I've even seen a change in sort of from the time I entered the workplace to now, where companies are taking it more seriously. They are making sure their employees have resources. They're talking about it more. But again, and I think a lot of industries and a lot of countries, I think there's such a long way for us to go. My own story, I started experiencing some anxiety and depression in early 2021. It was kind of weird to me because it was sort of one full year into the pandemic, or almost a full year. And I kind of felt like, for me personally, someone of great privileges and resources, things were going well overall. I was fine working from home. My partner and I live in a great space, we have a backyard, we had like room to do stuff, but I don't know, there wasn't any inciting event or incident. It was sort of just like January of 2021. All of a sudden I was just feeling really down, just such a lack of motivation, and really anxious. And I guess how it showed up at work for me a lot, where a big part of my job generally was jumping on calls, giving presentations, leading my team, and just sort of, showing up in a confident way to help the team through stuff. And all of a sudden, I just didn't recognize who I was anymore. I would just get really, really nervous, and anxious is the only way I can describe it, where I would not want to talk or present. I had trouble, I guess, working at sort of the normal output level that I'd been used to, where I just had very little motivation to get anything done. And I'm really lucky because already had a therapist. So, kind of as soon as things started feeling different, I just talked with her, and pretty quickly I went on medication, and, surrounded by, as I said, a wonderful partner and great friends, great family who helped me through it. But for at least a few months, it was just really demotivating to kind of not see any progress. Generally when you go on medication, it takes weeks to kind of feel some effect. And it's interesting, sort of months after, when I started telling more people about it at work, even somebody who believes in mental health awareness, I didn't totally feel I could tell many people at work about it. I don't know if I had to articulate it. Maybe it was just embarrassment. But anyway, don't get me wrong, everyone was really, really supportive, and would have been had I told them. But when I told them after things were in a little bit more stable place, nope. People were really surprised. They're like, maybe one person, my boss at the time, he was like, I could kind of tell something was off. He was super good about it throughout the whole time. But everybody else was like, oh, I had no idea. I had absolutely no idea. And I think that's so common the case, is that what is going on inside your head for you, oftentimes people just have no idea what you're going through. And it is such it's a thing that if you don't tell anyone, and if you don't sort of intentionally seek help and talk to people, it'll be a really silent struggle and a dark time. So all I can do and advocate for you is that whatever you're experiencing and going through, if you or if a loved one is going through something similar, and there's a lot of different kinds of things, right? Mine was a overall on the spectrum pretty mild, but that doesn't mean you don't need to get help. I think in the US we have such a culture of just sort of getting through it, and at least for men, manning up. Like I could not discourage that attitude more strongly. And I really encourage you to get help, get treatment. There are so many amazing and wonderful resources out there. NAMI.org is a great one. Especially during the pandemic and afterwards, just like getting access to a therapist can be as simple as, calling or texting or going online. There's all sorts of innovation in that space happening now, which I think is great. But as I said, I think we still have a long way to go of just like it being totally normalized, fighting against stigmas and getting kind of everybody the help they need. And I think we'll get there, but all of us can play a part in helping to raise awareness, share stories, reach out to people if you do need help. So I encourage you to do that and think about it. Thanks for listening to my story, and thanks for listening to the podcast. I hope we'll maybe do an episode around mental health sometime. Maybe talk to a therapist. I've got some really good friends who are kind of activists in the mental health space, so maybe we'll talk to them. Pitch me an idea if you have one, because it's an area I care a lot about. Okay, thanks.